world's longest international border between the United States and Canada is set to close to non-essential traffic. Now, that's according to US President Trump, who made the announcement just a short time ago. Mr. Trump says the decision was a mutual one and that trade will not be affected. Well, governments right around the world are working to inject economic stimulus to try and ease the pandemic's impact. Here in the United States, officials are weighing a whopping $1 trillion package. Now, that figure includes sending cash directly to millions of Americans, as the Treasury Secretary explained Tuesday.
We're looking at sending checks to Americans immediately. Americans need cash now, and the president wants to get cash now. And I mean now, in the next 2 weeks.
Now in the next 2 weeks. So we've since learned from a source that Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, warned Republicans that without urgent action, the unemployment rate could surge to 20%. So helping us sort through this plan is CNN business anchor Julia Chatterley joins us now from New York. That's a pretty dire warning, that 20% unemployment rate from the Treasury Secretary, Julia, especially considering right now that rate is between 3% and 4%.
Yeah, ignore that. I think that's the message. This is the kind of comment that a Treasury Secretary makes when he's trying to scare Congress into taking action. Having said that, and just to put a number on that 20%, we're talking around 32 million Americans. I don't think that that's so crazy. We are talking about millions and millions of people. The restaurant industry, you're talking 4 million people around, perhaps a little bit more here. That's an industry sector that's literally switched off overnight. No one's going into restaurants. Then you mirror that to other sectors. And these are jobs that won't be kept on for 1 week, 2 weeks. It's sudden and it's hitting every different sector in the country. So to see that kind of alarm from the Treasury on the one hand is worrying. To me, it's also good, because this is a war situation. This is that desperate in my mind. So if that means it galvanizes greater support, it's good. Talking about a $1 trillion stimulus plan, though, for me, is not enough. And I can give you a really simple calculation of why I'm saying that. We have a $20 trillion economy in the United States. We're talking about a 2 to 3 month potential stop. So we're talking a quarter of the year, a quarter of 20 trillion, $5 trillion. Is half of that personnel, employees? Half of 5 trillion, $2.5 trillion. That's why I'm saying $1 trillion isn't enough. And the people that I speak to that are very senior in business, very senior in policy making, I think are all coming to grips with that realization. What you're showing on your screen is the response from countries like the United Kingdom, from Spain, from Germany as a proportion of GDP. These are the countries that are getting it. The United States isn't yet waking up. This is a crisis that needs monumental scale response, and the United States needs to do more.
And clearly, obviously we're hearing about people already lining up for unemployment benefits this early in this pandemic. And this isn't just going to affect the restaurant industry or hospitality and tourism. This is going to be across the board, right? From supply chains.
Absolutely right. This has a backup effect. These are the workers that are just on the front lines. The restaurant industry, the tourism industry, the airline industry. We're seeing a quake going on in the energy markets too, the short-term employees in the oil and gas. And Moody's estimated that was 27 million people right on the front lines here, and it's happening immediately because the economy's literally been switched off. So if you map that to what Treasury Secretary Mnuchin is saying, that's kind of approaching your 20% unemployment, and it's instant. It's such a dramatic crisis that we're talking about here, and it's global. We're seeing it from Lego shutting stores, Volkswagen in Europe downing tools. It's happening in countries all around the world, and it's happening all at once. You know, I'm pretty optimistic generally, and I'm pretty reticent to have this degree of alarm. And I'm telling you that this requires things like we have never seen before, and nothing like the financial crisis, because this is global. It requires way more from governments at this moment.
You're talking about how unusual this is, and it certainly is unprecedented, but we are hearing from so many economists, some giving a positive spin on it, saying we'll recover from this within months. Others saying it's going to be like the 2008 recession. Some are comparing it to 9/11. What is it going to be like? When we look at, you know, in the past, at previous downturns, what is this most similar to?
It's a great question. This is like nothing we have seen before, because this isn't just the developed market under pressure, but emerging markets, China kind of okay. This is a health crisis that's taken over the globe. It's creating an economic crisis that's global, and the risk is that that then filters down to the financial crisis, to a financial crisis. What you're seeing is global central banks, including the Federal Reserve, trying to make sure that the functioning of the financial system is okay. What we need now is governments to step up to protect workers, to protect industry, because we can't grind to a halt for 2 to 3 months all at once. And the first question you asked was, what about the pickup? The pickup depends on the support, the speed of support right now, and that the economy is in a stable situation to kick back in, we hope, in 2 to 3 months' time, which is why governments need to act now.
Julia, so much more to discuss. So little time right now. Julia Chatterley, good to have you from New York. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it certainly all sounds very bad. And indeed, the coronavirus pandemic has altered life as we know it the world over. But the worst of times have brought out the best in many of us. Here's CNN's Martin Savidge.
These may feel like dark days, with headlines of contagion, fear, and hoarding. But human sunshine still exists. Random acts of corona kindness are everywhere. Like a front porch in Columbus, Ohio, where a young brother and sister put on a concert for a 78-year-old neighbor who had shut herself off from the virus and the world. Dressed in their best, the 6- and 9-year-old delighted their audience of one.
Yay! Bravo!
In Italy, where so many have died and so many more are isolated, they sing to each other from balconies. At night, voices echo through the streets with canine accompaniment. In Spain, where they're also suffering, to say thank you to doctors and nurses battling to save lives, people step outside and applaud everywhere. In Houston, at Irma's Southwest restaurant, now ordered closed, a couple left something behind, a $9,400 tip to pay your guys over the next few weeks, the anonymous note said.
This is beyond. I mean, I don't even have words for it. I just really don't.
We have to let our staff know that we may be off to work for 15 to 30 days, depending on how long that is. But the gift we got today should help soften the blow.
At a Cleveland watering hole, also closing, a customer added a little something extra to his less than $30 bill, $2,500 for the staff. When the NBA stopped the games, Cleveland Cavaliers basketball star Kevin Love started thinking about the arena staff without work. He donated $100,000 from his foundation to them, hoping others would follow his lead in their towns. They did. Teachers may not be rich like athletes, but they have a wealth of knowledge, and on Facebook, many are sharing it to answer questions and help others learn. Elsewhere, the elderly are on the minds of many. People offered a grocery shop for those who cannot or may not want to leave their homes. Stores have begun allowing older customers their own exclusive shopping hours to limit exposure to crowds. And when coronavirus concerns prevented her from going into a North Carolina nursing home to show her grandfather something, a young woman stood at his window, simply pointing to the engagement ring. The virus, forcing us apart, seems also to be bringing us together, closer than we've been in a long while. Martin Savidge, CNN.
Good to see some hope in all of this. Well, for more on the facts and fears surrounding the coronavirus, you can join Dr. Gupta and Anderson Cooper in their third CNN Global Town Hall. That's live Friday, 6 a.m. Abu Dhabi time, 10 a.m. in Hong Kong. It's clear many more people are going to get sick, but will hospitals have the tools to make them well? We're going to look at what some doctors fear is a dangerous shortage of supplies. Plus, the Philippines declares a state of calamity. As the World Health Organization warns several Asian nations, now is the time for aggressive action. And to train or not to train, Olympic athletes are frustrated as they try to figure out what is going on with the 2020 Games.